Yeah, done. And we're live.
Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Film Geeks podcast brought to you in association with Indian Nav. This is your host Abhishek, and joining me as always are my comrades and cohorts Arindam and Anirban. And yes, again, this is a brand new format that we're trying out. We're planning to go live from here on in because you can hear the generally kind of we watch movies over the weekend. I mean, the new releases, etc., and even stuff, even TV shows which we are planning to review for you all out there. We generally watch them over the weekend, and while what we feel exactly is fresh in our thoughts, we would like to have you listen to them unfiltered and without any our first reactions is what you're going to get, and that is basically how it's going to be from here on in. But we can talk more about whatever we have lined up for all of you all out there. But firstly and foremostly, let me introduce you to my reintroduce in fact to my comrades and cohorts, like I keep on saying. Arindam and Anirban, how are you guys doing today?
Hey, I'm awesome. What about you, Anir? How has the weekend been treating you? I saw some of your posts on Instagram about some house concerts that you're hosting. So, like,
Yeah,
what's
it's
that about?
thanks for introducing that and giving me the chance to shamelessly plug that here. This is a new concept that a few of us have been working on, and it's called living room sessions. I know similar sounding concepts have been started here and there, but this is something that we have been trying to start, and we have done it in Gurgaon. This was the second sessions. We are only trying to entertain musicians who probably do deserve a platform where they'll get not only a good recording sort of stage where they can record their songs, but also they'll get a video which we also edit with the best of the professionals that we have. And we do have the one of the best sound engineers. This guy has Anand Vijay has worked for Bill Gates. Bill Gates last two times that he was here, he's created the soundtracks for him and his foundation, the Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this guy is in fact very good in terms of sound. So we also have a few videographers who are working on it. So it's only going to get better things. And we had the second session last night. It was a huge success. The only thing was that the turnout was huge. I mean, we had more than 60 people at one point, and we are not planning to move out of the living room. So as you can you understand, we ran out of space very fast, very quickly, and but it was a lot of fun, and it will be good if you guys can come, and visit, so that yeah, we can hang out and watch some good music, man. I think Indian music has been down for quite some time, at least the kind of music that we like, and this is the kind of music that we can actually jive and enjoy at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot that you can say about the Indian indie scene, or whatever the scene has become nowadays. Initially, it was the underground scene, then it became the rock and the metal scene, then it transpired into the EDM scene, and now it is the indie scene. I don't really know as to where it's going right now, but it's great that actually people are coming out and doing music which they love instead of doing music which will sell. Because even the Indian rap movement, I'm really interested in as to where it's going. There's some amazing rap artists from where we come from, that is in Shillong. There's some amazing rap artists from places like Bombay, from Manipur, and from Delhi itself. So there are some amazing musical independent music which is happening in India, and it has always been there. But now with the advent of internet and with the access to platforms such as Bandcamp and platforms such as YouTube, the sky is the limit, so as to say. And if the music is good and the content is good, you'll always find an audience. That being said, let's get on and let's start the show. Let's start the show a little bit on a somber note. This morning, as soon as we woke up, in fact, I was shocked to learn that Sridevi, one of the premier actresses of the time when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, has sadly passed away. I think she was 54 years old. And well, she was attending a wedding in Dubai, and that's where she had a cardiac arrest, and sadly, she is with us no more. And I actually woke up to this news and it was kind of shocking. I mean, I remember watching a lot of her films growing up. It was a very common thing. You wake up, on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, and you have the TV on, and you have the Jitendra and the Sridevi Stara, or the Rishi Kapoor or the Sridevi Stara, or Anil Kapoor and the Sridevi Stara, always on the TV. And one of my favorite superhero films of all time has to be Mr. India, and she had a very pivotal part in it to play. So yeah, that was kind of shocking. It was kind of out of the blue, and especially now when she is in the middle of a comeback. She made her comeback a few years ago with English Winglish. Post that, she was seen in a couple more films, and she was touted to appear in Shah Rukh Khan's latest, which is called Zero, sometime in December. So it's a very shocking news to wake up to. It's a very sad news to wake up to. Arindam, your thoughts?
I think she was one of those actresses who didn't just play a damsel in distress. If you remember in Mr. India, if it was any other actress, she wouldn't have been able to carry off some of the roles, like the Charlie Chaplin thing that she did. And also, she was like flawless in almost every sort of role that was given to her. She did drama well, she did comedy well, she did anything you just threw at her, she made it her own. She just did not, say the actresses of the day. I'm not, trying to make light of the talents of actresses like Raveena Tandon and Karishma Kapoor, who were more of the actresses who played those sorts of damsels in distress. But the roles that Sridevi had, she made it her own, and she made the movie revolve around her rather than her leading men. So that was what you could say about Sridevi, and she was a really, really talented actress, and she'll be missed. And it especially sucks that she was in the middle of a comeback, like Abhishek said. And I just loved English Winglish, and I really wanted to check out Mom, and I guess I will have to soon. Anir.
I remember the first time I Sridevi in a movie, and this was I don't remember when it was released, but it was Kamala Hassan, and I really love that movie because, for one, it shows off a range of capabilities that Sridevi had while being, a movie that is not really the movie that she became known for later after that. But I think it's should count as one of her best performances. Although I do think that she got better with age, and if you watch English or some of her later roles, I think she has uh, turned into a very different kind of actress. The kind of actress that you kind of start respecting a lot more than you used to. The kind of roles that were given to her in the 80s and the 90s probably uh, would have explored a range of acting capabilities, whether it was the damsel in distress role that you're talking about, or the fierce independent woman that you also see in Mr. India. And all of this was something that she was very adept at pulling off. And this is one of the reasons that you also respect a woman like that and acting capabilities. So all of this, it's something that the world will really miss in terms of what Sridevi had to offer. And yeah, it's a very sad thing that this had to happen. And obviously, the world has lost a great talent, especially Indian cinema. But I think the world in general has lost a big talent.
Right. I think the legacy that someone like Sridevi leaves behind is, especially when you look at the time when she was really popular in the mid 80s, mid to late 80s, and in the early 90s. That was the time, that was a peak of masala movies. That was when Indian movies get made fun of, that is basically the stereotype that they're making fun of. But even in those movies, people did not really come, at least to my knowledge, even till this day, people did not come to watch an age-old Jitendra, someone who has been doing these kind of movies from the 50s and the 60s, in the 60s rather, or a rapidly down the hill actor like Rishi Kapoor. People actually flocked towards someone like a Sridevi. She was the marquee star there, and I think very, very, very few actresses in Bollywood can actually lay claim to that, because she was, apart from very handful, like I mentioned, no one else actually could say that people actually went to the theaters to watch a movie because of the leading actress and not the leading man. And I think that should be the most important part of a legacy, especially in a day and age where women power and feminism is one of the most important talking points. I think she was the one, especially in entertainment, who was doing it way before all of these things became talking points. I think Sridevi is a leading light, and she will be sorely missed. And speaking about things which will were missed and which will not be missed going forward is Joss Whedon. I really don't understand all of a sudden how the fuck DC fans are up in arms about the fact that Joss Whedon was bad for them. I mean, I think he made all of the good parts of Justice League were all made by Joss Whedon. I understand that there is a little bit of controversy with his name nowadays, but yeah, that's the latest that we have come to know, that this week, according to Hollywood Reporter, Joss Whedon has actually exited from the Batgirl project that he was planning to make. We have spoken about the Batgirl project here on our podcast initially, in one of our earlier podcasts as well. But now it looks like that he's not going to be a part of it. Anirban, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm very okay with it. I'm okay with him not being part of the Batgirl project. It does need somebody younger, I feel, and I don't think it's somebody with Joss Whedon skills. I think it's enough of reviving that he has done in the past few years. I think he should stick to more original product projects for now. The only thing that I'm worried about is now with the whole feminist angle that has risen to the forefront, that they'll look to cast somebody who is a woman just because it's a woman and not just based on merit. That's the only thing I'm worried about. And I know that's something that causes a lot of controversy in itself. But the thing is, as I said, it should be on merit and not based on your gender. And all of this is just the way it is. I don't know what are your thoughts on it, Arindam?
I think you hit something spot on when you said that it should be based on merit, and just because of that, Patty Jenkins uh, brought something that wasn't seen before, and that is why it was heralded as one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. Even though we didn't think of it that way, but it was something special. Uh, there has to be someone to write female characters. Joss Whedon writes good quips, but sometimes he does falter writing female characters like he did with Black Widow in Avengers 2. So you need that sort of a female perspective going in, and I think Catherine Bigelow will be perfect if she gets hired, and also DC will get all the brownie points if they, center in all the female characters. And if this is a success, then DC again, like Marvel, what the Marvel does very good is it capitalizes on whatever is current. There was this, you can see this going into Black Panther, and this will definitely happen with Batgirl as well. So DC has a golden opportunity here, but I do not think that the way that they're approaching it is a correct way. Did you see what happened with the Roxane Gay tweet? She's this novelist, so she just sent out a tweet that, I'm ready to take up whatever. I have certain plans for the Batgirl character, and the DC's executive producer of the movies, she actually tweeted back just like, meet me, and like that there's an actual chance that a movie can be made without seeing what merits that she carries, what weight she has. So I'm hoping that this just doesn't just become a diversity representation issue with Batgirl, and I hope that the right talent is attached to it. So that's why I want someone like Catherine Bigelow, who has never done a superhero movie, to do this property justice.
Right, I completely agree with all your points. I mean, it has to be based on merit and not on gender. And I really hope that they stick to making a one-off films. I don't want these movies. We've spoken about this in the past. We don't want DC EU to be an actual cinematic universe. Why Justice League kind of works a little well, because it is so far removed from the tone of say Batman vs Superman, and especially Wonder Woman, which is their best superhero movie till now. Why it works so well is because it doesn't tie in, or at least 90% of the movie doesn't tie in with any other movie. It is just its own thing, and I think that is the way to go. You don't really need a universe. What DC has is a multiverse, and fucking explore that shit. But when you have to explore that, I mean, let have these characters have their individual movies, so that you don't have to rush into these characters like we had with Aquaman and we had with Cyborg in Justice League, where they were just introduced, and also Flash, who were just introduced, and then bam, this is what they do, and this is how they fit into a story. And why would people give a shit about these characters? Establish these characters in separate movies, establish these characters in their individual films, and then probably have play with the multiverse, because that is something which DC has in spades. Leave the universe to the Marvel guys. It's fine. You don't really need every franchise nowadays has to have an extended universe. It doesn't really work. It didn't work for the Dark Universe. It's not really working for DC. Hasn't worked for DC for quite a while. It's only working for Marvel because they have had these plans going in for almost more than a decade. So let's leave all of this universe building shit to people who can actually do it, and let's just stick to writing good superhero films. And let's hope someone like a David Leitch or someone like Catherine Bigelow actually comes on board and gives this character, and we can have, in fact, a very good action film, more than a superhero film, because I mean, I'm sick and tired of superhero films. Let's just get some female-fronted action film. And speaking about female-fronted action films, none of that was in place when in fact, the three of us decided to watch Netflix's latest movie, Duncan Jones's Mute, because this is one movie which in fact, all of us were really excited for, because we are huge fans of Duncan Jones, not because of his father, but he's in fact a very good filmmaker. We love Source Code. I mean, I personally love Source Code. I loved Moon. Warcraft was a little bit iffy, and then it was Mute, and of course, he said that it's a spiritual successor to Mute, which was released in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. A post which he moved on to bigger, but if not better things with Warcraft. And then he made this movie, and of course, it stars Alexander Skarsgård in the main role, where he plays the role of a mute bartender who actually has to find out what happened to his girlfriend, who actually disappears. Now, this is a genre of movie which I have decided to call Blade Runner core, because these guys have taken everything which looks like Blade Runner and are trying to build on those similar motifs and similar scale and similar looking things. Another property which is doing something similar is Altered Carbon, but to differing levels of quality. Let's start with you, Arindam. What did you think about Mute?
I really like Blade Runner core. I like Ghost in the Shell. I know many people did, but I think that had to do with the Blade Runner core that you mentioned. Like you said, Altered Carbon and other properties are adapting this thing where they have the neo-noir look with the neon-drenched, freshly rained streets. And it just felt a little off. It had everything working for it. It had a great cast. It had a promising sort of story, but nothing really happens in this movie. I think I dozed off a couple of times. I know this genre is supposed to be slow, but this wasn't the slowness of the script, or maybe the running time also, but it just didn't have anything going for it. I think the only person who actually mattered and did something for the movie was Paul Rudd, who acts his ass off. You don't even realize that guy is actually the villain of the movie. But it just doesn't make sense. The character motivations for him, it doesn't really work, because he's leaving as it is. I didn't really get what the movie was trying to do. I was disappointed with what Duncan Jones did. I loved every movie of his that he has made till now, including Warcraft. And this was a sore disappointment, considering it had such a great trailer going in. So, Anil, what about you?
I think the problem with Duncan Jones is that Moon was his best movie, and I think it's because he had a lot of time on his hands, and yet probably it was his dream project, and he dedicated a lot of time to it and refining it, and the product, while might not have made as much as it should have, but it is one of the better movies to have come out in the year that it came out. And I love Moon, and so do a lot of the film geeks panel, and I know both of you would really love that movie. And of course, after that you have Source Code, which is again a very good movie. I love Source Code too, but it's not as good as Moon. And then you come to Warcraft, which is again not as good as the first two movies. Then you have Mute, which I really did not like. I mean, I you talk about dozing off once or twice. I actually dozed more than two or three times because it holds your attention because it seems like it's something that has done to that a lot of times. It's just something. It's to describe it simply. It's Blade Runner mixed with Blade Runner mixed with Kabil, and all of that combines movies about, and it's very irritating. And there's some moments that are shown, and I think some of the characters are very interesting. But the lead character, who's supposed to be Alexander Skarsgård, he's mm, surprisingly given a very one-note performance, and it's just supposed to affect you very deeply. You're supposed to care about that character, but I think he became the biggest liability of this movie. And there you have these other characters who are played by Justin Theroux and uh, Paul Rudd, who are actually carrying the movie. And I think the only reason they put him in there is because there was no way that you can have a mute Alexander Skarsgård carry this movie. There's no way to fill the plot holes. There was no other way. That's why these characters were there. So a lot of these characters, while were interesting, do not make sense whatsoever. So it becomes a very tedious watch, as is evident by me and Arindam dozing off quite a few times. I don't know about how many times Abhishek dozed off. I'm sure he also did the same thing. Also did the same thing. It's in parts it's good, but in most parts I think it's very shoddy screenwriting. And I I'm very disappointed with Duncan Jones. I don't know how this got made and why it's out there. I mean, Netflix, I know you have a lot of money and all, but just don't release in everything and anything out there. And something like Bright might do well because at the end of the day, you're not supposed to think that it's a movie that will require a lot of your attention, and you're just supposed to watch it like the blockbuster movie that it is. But a movie like this should hold your attention throughout, and it should have very tight screenwriting, not the way that this was made. I'm very unhappy with this movie, and
Well, Netflix has become sort of a dumping grounds in terms of movies like this. Look at this movie that I think was supposed to get a theatrical release as well, but Netflix picked it up. And the same thing happened with Cloverfield Paradox. So I really hope that isn't the case. I think they're going to prove us wrong with Annihilation, which comes out on March the 12th, and it has really good reviews. So I'm looking forward to that. But I don't really like what Netflix is doing right now. They're just picking up movies without any quality control or any as such. So I don't think this is a good thing that they're doing. Like you mentioned, they have enough money to burn, but this is not a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing for a very disappointing watch for me as well. I thought Sineb Saleh, the actress who plays Nadira, the girlfriend of Alexander Skarsgård's character, who kind of disappears in the start of the film, I thought she was bad. And then as the movie kept happening, Alexander Skarsgård has had an absolute stinker of a role because, as Anirban mentioned, this is a role where he was completely one note, completely unlikable, uh, totally, absolutely bogged down by the inane script that was written by Michael Robert Johnson and by Duncan Jones. So this is not a very very good outing for any party involved. I mean, Paul Rudd and Justin Theroux, the guys who play Cactus and Duck respectively, they are kind of, I don't know, kind of the antagonists of the film, and they have to carry every fucking scene of the movie. There are parts of the movie which make absolutely no sense at all, and I'm not even going to go back and explain those things or even try to understand what was going on, because it is so inconsequential at the end. There is this huge religious angle which is played at the start of the film, and it's brought back of at least 4 or 5 times in the movie and goes absolutely nowhere. I mean, it makes no sense there. Why and how was Paul Rudd associated with Nadira's character has never been explained. Why was this Maxim character, who is this German drug lord, what does he have for Paul Rudd which is holding him back in this city? None of these things make sense, and this is a movie where it's so pretentious. It's sad that I have to say this, because this movie is dedicated to one of my favorite artists of all time, David Bowie. But this fucking movie is so pretentious that it's as bad as David Bowie's 90s albums. It is really not good. I'm sorry, but yeah, this movie is really not good. If I have to give it a rating, I would give it a solid F. This movie fucking sucks, and do not do. I mean, don't waste your time on this. If you want to, well, go ahead, get drunk. I mean, this would make for brilliant ambient backgrounds for your house party. But keep the but as the saying goes, or as the name of the movie is, keep everything on mute. It just makes for very good visuals and nothing much, nothing less. Arindam.
I was going to watch. Sorry, I was going to watch Ustad Hotel, which I heard is a much better movie than this, and I think that movie has Dulquer Salmaan. I really wanted to watch that, and then we decided that we'll watch this, and so I had to make the choice between watching Ustad Hotel and this. I really should have watched Ustad Hotel. I really think I wasted my time on this. I'm sorry, Arindam, you were saying?
Yeah, I think they needed someone with great acting prowess and who has experience with character roles. Alexander Skarsgård, I love him in True Blood, but he's not the greatest actor in the world, and I'm thankful he didn't get the role of Thor. He was the first guy who was going to get the role, and he did. Anyways, that aside, I think they should have gone for someone who has a knack for these character actor roles. I think if they switched the characters of Paul Rudd and Alexander Skarsgård, it would have made a better viewing experience for us, but it just sucked. I'll give it an F as well, but don't waste your time watching this. Watch Altered Carbon instead. Joel Kinnaman does a way better role.
It's surprising how it's surprising how Joel Kinnaman has suddenly turned his career around. He has been shitty in almost everything that I've watched, but surprisingly, everything which he does, all of his character takes and all of his character motivations work in Altered Carbon, and I put it down to brilliant screenwriting. I think Altered Carbon is a sleeper hit. It's a show which I really enjoy, and that is Blade Runner Code done right. Hashtag Blade Runner Core, by the way. So yeah, Blade Runner Core, when it works, it's brilliant, especially for people like us who love the neon 80s futuristic world where everything is in a shade of neon and everything is dingy. Something which was started, I think, one of the proto Blade Runner Core movies of our times is Pacific Rim, which no one gives a fuck about. But yeah, Pacific Rim was actually Blade Runner Core, and then you have had over the past couple of years a slate of Blade Runner Core films like Ghost in the Shell, like Valerian, like Blade Runner 2049, and now this piece of shit, Mute. So don't waste your time. Don't watch fucking Mute. Watch something else, anything else for that matter. It's really it's just February and it's one of the worst movies. I can pretty well guarantee you this will be one of the most, if not not the worst movie of the year, one of the most disappointing movies of the year, especially because of the people and the talent involved. Let's hope Paul Rudd, I think, will come out of this really well. And I really worry for Alexander Skarsgård, because if the second season of Little Big Lies doesn't hold up, this guy is in a little bit of a dump. That being said,
he dies in the end of Little Big Lies, so that doesn't matter at the end, because I don't think he's gonna be a part of season 2.
Thank you for spoiling that to me. Anyway,
Even though Meryl Streep is playing his mother, so you never know, he might be brought back for the flashback sequences. So yeah, that does work.
Thank you very much. Spoiler for the spoiler, fucking asshole. Anyway, so that does it for this edition of Film Geeks podcast. Very quickly, Anirban, are you reading or do you have any recommendations to give people?
I'm not currently reading anything. There are a lot of things that I'm involved in, so it leaves very little time for me to actually read anything new. I'm trying to catch up on a few things, but there are two animes that I would like to recommend just because of how inanely stupid they are and how just insanely weird their premises are. One of them I've spoken about in the past. It's called Kakegurui, which means compulsive gambler. It's on Netflix right now, and when I last spoke about it, it was just in the form of a manga and not a anime. Now it is there, and if you guys should, it's a little pervy, but it's very interesting. The other one, again, that anime that I'd like to recommend. This was it's again on Netflix. It's if you love food, then you should watch this one. And again, it's a little pervy, but that's how anime is now. I just don't know why I ended up watching those. These two are very interesting, and you should definitely please, if you love stupidly made animes as much as I do.
There are two shows that I'm watching. There are three shows, in fact, that I'm watching that you should, because I'm pretty damn sure that these are going to end up in the best of a list in 2018. The first being Mosaic. It's basically Sharon Stone in an HBO show. It's about a graphic novelist who gets murdered, and then it's a murder mystery. After that, there's another show called American Crime Story, season 2, and that it's basically subtitled "The Death or the Assassination of Gianni Versace." It's one of the most well-acted shows that you'll see all year, as is evident with every Ryan Murphy show. This has a star cast like unlike anything that you've seen. It has an international cast. It has people from Spain. It even has Ricky Martin, in fact, and you will just love what he does. And the last show that I'm going to recommend is called Waco. It's about uh, a cult which basically happened in the 1990s, and there was a polygamist whose entire land was raided by the FBI, the ATF, and it's basically about that guy and how the shootout happens. It has Michael Shannon starring in as an FBI negotiator, and it also has a few faces that you will recognize from one of these HBO shows, but you just don't tend to remember their names. So it's a great fucking show. These three shows you must be on your watching list. It's Mosaic, American Crime Story, and Waco. Abhishek.
Right. Apart from watching Mute and watching all of these shows which you guys have been talking about, I haven't watched. I just started with Waco and I started with American Crime Story. I have been watching a lot of Second World War documentaries on Netflix because strangely I find them very therapeutic. So if you are a history nut, Netflix has an entire line of Second World War documentaries which have been colored for this day and age. I find that extremely, extremely, extremely informative, especially if you're a history nut like I am. It's always good to go back and check out some of these amazing things which shaped our modern world. And also, I would like to recommend a book which I recently picked up. It's called Southern Bastards. It's by Jason Aaron and Jason Latour. It is set in the southern part of the redneck part of America, and it's basically Walking Tall set in a very small town which loves football. It's fucking violent. It is brilliantly done. It is one of the best comic books currently out right now. Jason Aaron is one of my favorite writers, comic book writers of all time. I almost love everything which he's done, which sadly I have not read Scalped. But apart from Scalped, I think I've read most of his run on Wolverine. I've read most of his run on Southern Bastards and Thor, of course. This guy is amazing, and this is one comic book which you should definitely check out. The one which I have is a premiere hardcover. It collects the first 8 issues, or first 12 issues, sorry, divided into story arcs. So this is something which is available on Amazon very easily. So you guys can go ahead and check that out. So that does it for this edition of the Film Geeks podcast. Thank you so much for sticking by, and thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us. And we will see you guys again next week with more reviews and more talking points. So till we meet again, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And of course, if you love this video, leave a comment for us below, and we will try to read them out for you next week or whenever we are doing this. Thank you again, and like, share, subscribe, follow us on social media, do all of that good shit. Have a good week, and I will see you guys again. We will, in fact, see you guys again next week. May the force be with you always. Bye-bye.